One of the key pieces in having a patient family advisory council is sharing your outcomes. So a lot of people think, this is a nice to have or a CMS regulated process. And what I will tell you is that you better have outcomes. I'm a big believer in you better have metrics, that you better be able to demonstrate the things that you've done, that you've driven change and the way it's changed the way leaders think. And the council members expect outcomes. Every single agenda item that we bring forward, we have what's called a circle back, in which, whether it's the next meeting or a few meetings down the road, they want to know, how did you use my feedback to drive change? That is critical for them. Again, one of the things they're after is value and impact, and it's our responsibility to deliver that. We also have an impact statement. You can view the impact statement on spectrumhealth.org, and you have an opportunity to look at that. We post the most recent one for everybody to be able to see, internal and external to the organization. But it's a testament to the outcomes and the value that they bring to the organization. And it's something that's held in high regard, and something that helps them be able to tell their story, helps us to be able to tell their story.
Hi, I'm Wally Washleski. I've been involved with PFAC for about 4 years. What I really like about being on Spectrum's PFAC is they listen. I have seen many times where we provide input, and if it's good input, it gets implemented. I feel like my voice is being heard as a patient, because I actually feel that when a patient's coming into a facility, they're nervous. They're scared. They don't know what to expect next. And so what I try to provide is that input to show, okay, here's how your patient is feeling. This is how you can make it a softer place.
We hear a lot of presentations from different aspects of the whole facility, of the Spectrum Health facility, not just the hospital, saying, we're thinking about doing these programs. Give us feedback proactively before we actually do some of these programs. Or here are some issues that we see and we want feedback. So we do a lot of that. Specifically, we have been in from the ground floor on the creation of some new facilities and have actually helped to plan some of those facilities. I've been a part of some videos that have been educational videos for both nurses and patients, new patients who are in the hospital. I've helped out with call light response. We actually changed the way call lights were answered and the systemic issue of, can you get there fast enough? But we changed the system of who's assigned to answer your call light, and the whole way actually the hospital was thinking. So we piloted it, we brainstormed along with nurses, doctors, people who are involved in the whole process, but we also said, you know what, sometimes it's people outside of the system that can tell you a different perspective with some logic and common sense and that type of thing. And so we all brainstormed through a process improvement event and actually came up with a new way that call lights would be answered in a test type of facility for several floors in the hospital. Instead of you being assigned to me as your patient, it was almost like who was closest and who was available would be answering the call lights. And I'm simplifying this, but we certainly piloted it, and we found that call lights were being answered in a much more timely manner. And actually, Spectrum nurses were also more satisfied with the process. And so we started to let that expand a little bit more from floor to floor. We've changed the way, in some respects, rounding was done, and the way report out was done in rounding, and how it was more of a team report out when people would be present along with the patient, but family members could know when this was going to happen and they could be present.
Since I've joined the PFAC, the differences and changes I've seen, for example, I will use the labs. So some of the things that we've done around the labs is we put help them provide communications to people. They had a new program where people could drop their home collections in and talked about what that means to make sure that they're accurate, make sure that I don't have to come back if I've done that because something got not processed properly. So one of the things we also did is we, as a group, went on a bus. And we went and toured some facilities, and we were comparing those facilities. And so we were able to go in because the staff doesn't know us. And so we were able to go in and see the settings and what was there, what was the, were we greeted, how long it took to be greeted. And then once we identified ourselves, we went back into the lab and checked for like privacy and conversation and what happens at that point. A few of us also afterwards did a real blind where we actually had labs that we had to get drawn. And so when we went in there, we took notes of, again, how long it took us to register to sit, were we greeted by name, were we escorted in, you know, how was the setting, that sort of thing.
So we want to make it interesting, we want to make it interactive, and most importantly, we really have to seek their wisdom. We have to create opportunities, and this is the tough part. As leaders, we often want to come to the meeting and basically run through our PowerPoint and say, we've got it together and I've done a good job. It's really teaching leaders the ability to be curious, to ask questions, and rather than their plan is baked and ready to go, to say before you even really bake your plan, get input, because it will change the direction of what you do in a significant way.
I mean, there were times when I've made suggestions that I thought, oh, this is off the wall. You're never going to do it. It can be tiny suggestions, which are easy. Let's make sure that we reward all the frontline staff on our floors at a certain time, and so we go deliver ice cream or whatever. Let's see what we can do about changing the structure of a room or a space. That's going to have huge impacts financially. But again, people listen to us. There are thousands of ideas that we throw out there all the time. Again, from proactive ideas to design and implementation to more practical ideas about a program that's already taking place, that we say, what if you made a modification this way? What if drugs were delivered from the pharmacy in a different manner than the way that we currently deliver them? And it's not that they're not silly. They don't just say, oh, that's a great idea. Okay, we'll make sweeping changes. But they start testing the process and saying, what if we did that? What if we did that? And I've always felt listened to. And I've always been encouraged to speak up as a member of a PFAC, no matter who's in the room, no matter who is in the room.
One of the things we know, we have seen significant improvement in HCAPs over the years. And especially when we first started, that was, we didn't have HCAPs at that time, but we did see a significant jump when we started to really listen to the council and deploy their ideas. They also help us think about things that maybe aren't as measurable, but the humanic or the healing side. And oftentimes we get focused on things like, well, what's the outcome, or did we meet that core measure criteria? And while that's interesting, they help remind us of words like healing, or person, or family, or the caring that's demonstrated. And they'll tell us, I don't know if you met any of your core measures or those important things. I'm assuming maybe you did, but I remember Susie, or I remember Joe that did this act of kindness, and it profoundly changed me and my family's life forever. And those are the kinds of things that help us as leaders recognize that, really what I call the critical pieces of core measures and HCAPs, they're there. But it's that caring relationship that is the foundation and that really creates the memory for those patients and families.